Ladies and gentlemen, partner Jabian Consulting, Mr. Nigel Zelcer.
Good afternoon. I'm Nigel Zelcer, co-founder and partner of Jabian Consulting. We're a local management and IT consulting firm helping mid-market and Fortune 500 companies develop and implement strategies that work. Jabian Consulting has enjoyed steady growth over the last several years. TAG's work to help build Georgia's technology industry into the powerhouse it is today has most certainly contributed to our growth. That's why Jabian is a proud TAG Platinum sponsor and has found many ways to support TAG over the years. It is now my pleasure to kick off what has become a hallmark of this summit, the Technology Hall of Fame of Georgia. One of TAG's 5 strategic pillars is to celebrate and recognize Georgia's technology leaders. What better way to do that than through the Hall of Fame, where we showcase individuals whose hard work, creativity, technology innovation have left an indelible mark on the industry, on our state, and often the world. 7 years ago, we entered into discussions with PricewaterhouseCoopers to bring the Hall of Fame to Georgia Technology Summit. We thank PricewaterhouseCoopers for sharing this opportunity with us. I'm sure that they agree that the partnership has been exceptional and helped to shine a brighter light on our exemplary honorees. I now would like to introduce Nathan Briesemeister, partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, to begin this year's Hall of Fame recognition.
Thank you, Nigel. Good afternoon. PricewaterhouseCoopers is proud to continue our sponsorship of the Technology Hall of Fame of Georgia program. This is the 20th year that PwC has recognized and honored the men and women who have made a significant impact and contributions to the technology industry in the state of Georgia. I also want to recognize Georgia Tech for its contributions to the Technology Hall of Fame program. In particular, wanted to remind you all to visit the Technology Hall of Fame kiosk in the lobby of the Synergy building on the campus of Georgia Tech. Also today, as we typically do, I'd like to recognize the Hall of Fame members in attendance today. If you would, please stand when I call your name. First, Ben Dyer. Ken Byers. Alan Ecker. Sig Mosley. Don House. Jim Edenfield. John Imlay. Leland Strange. Bill Goodhue. It was a bit of an eye test for me. I think I've got everybody. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for being here today. At the conclusion of the summer program, I'd like for you all to come up for a group picture. And today, we are proud and excited to honor Jeff Arnold as this year's inductee into the Technology Hall of Fame of Georgia. And with that, I'd like to introduce John Imlay to come to the stage and say a few words regarding Jeff. And then Jeff, following John's remarks in a short video, please come up to the stage to accept your award and say a few words. So John.
Good afternoon. I want to thank Pricewaterhouse for continuing their sponsorship of this program because it's been very exciting for all of us that have been a part of it. It's an honor and a privilege to introduce Jeff Arnold into the Technology Hall of Fame. You know, I feel a little bit like a buzzard on a gut wagon. You know, I don't know where to begin. He's done so much in so few years. Jeff is a serial entrepreneur. From 28 years old to 41, he has brought and sold 6 companies and is now in the midst of one that's probably will be his best. I went to church, which is very rare this Sunday, and when I got there, I saw the preacher had a frown on his face. He'd been to the session for a raise and he didn't get it. So he took it to the parishioners and he got up and he said, "I am the pastor of this church and I make $500 a week and that is not enough," and sat down in a huff. About that time, the assistant pastor jumps up and says, "I am the assistant pastor of this church and I make $250 a week and that is not enough either," and he sat down. All of a sudden, there's a low chord on the organ. The organist jumps up and says, "I am the organist of this church, and I make $1,000 a week, and there's no business like show business." Well, there's no business like Jeff Arnold's business. In 1998, his first entrepreneurial work was with a company called Quality Diagnostics. He sold it and this was a heart monitor, always doing something well for people, to test the arrhythmia situation that so many have had. He sold it for $25 million to Matria Health. He then rolled into a little company called WebMD, which we all have used at one time or another, and really was a phenomenal success in the highlight of the great bubble that we had in that particular era. He raised $2 billion to start this from people like DuPont, Microsoft, Janus, and then he merged it with Healthion for $7.9 billion. Now, when it was at its peak, I went to see Jeff. And I wanted to buy $1 million worth of stock, and so I'd go in. I'd known him for a long, long time, and he had 2 telephones going. And he was on one with the Janus guy, and he was on one with Elton John. There is no business like show business when you're dealing with him. And I'm sitting there amazingly watching this, and the Janus guy says, "I want to buy $1 billion worth of stock." Now get this, it's trading at 72. Jeff says $83 a share. After much negotiation, they bought it for $82 a share. I packed up my little bag and shook his hand and left. After WebMD came In Broadband. He sold that to Tandberg Television for $120 million. You know, he always says the right thing at the right time. He's a very, very great salesman. And it reminds me of my favorite thing on Johnny Carson. Now, some of you are so young you don't remember who Johnny Carson was, but he came before Jay Leno, and he was wonderful. And on the Tonight Show, he was interviewing Conrad Hilton, and you probably don't know who Conrad Hilton is, but he owned the Hilton hotels. And he had a good interview, and Johnny said, "Well, now there's 10 million people watching. 1 million of them are probably in Hilton hotels. What do you want to say to them?" And Conrad thinks a minute and he says, "Put the shower curtain in the tub." From there, Jeff went on to How Stuff Works. He sold this to the Discovery Channel and has become their strategist for the digital world for a total of $250 million. He always seems to be ahead of the game. It reminds me of 2 fellows who are ice fishing. It's 30 below zero, they haven't caught anything. Little kid comes out on the ice. This is up in Canada. Wind's blowing. Kid throws in a line, pulls out a fish, throws in another line, pulls out a fish. They said, we've been here for an hour. We're frozen. We haven't caught anything. What's he doing? So they get up and they walk over and they say, hey, kid, how did you catch those fish? Kid looks up at him and said, and the kid, we couldn't understand what you said. We want to know how to catch fish. He says, what? Kid, speak clearly. Please tell us how to catch fish. He goes, you got to keep the worms warm. And if anyone's ever kept the worms warm, it's Jeff Arnold. From there to mobile travel guide, sells it to Forbes, to Lid Rock, which may have been a little early, but it's a fun thing. And now to his latest, Share Care, which is, it's really WebMD on steroids. It actually gives you advice from the doctor, from someone like the Cleveland Clinic, and someone like Dr. Oz. Backing this one are Sony Pictures, Discovery Communication, Harpo Production. No business like show business, because that's owned by Oprah Winfrey. I asked Jeff to come down to the Atlanta Falcons. We were doing a seminar for our wealthiest players on how to keep your money and how to take care of yourself rather than buying 4 Lamborghinis. And as he spoke to them, he was the last one. He says they were kind of laid back and half snoring and everything else. They just listened to lawyers for the last hour. And Jeff said, I flew all night. I was at Oprah's house last night. Well, that woke him up. And then he told them how to brand themselves. He told them how to build a business. He told them all of the exciting things that he'd been involved with. They stood and applauded. And they came to me saying, I want to be with him. He continues to amaze in the entrepreneurial world, but his greatest achievement is here with him today, and that's Meg and 4 beautiful children. His mom is here, her mom is here. It's a special occasion for them to see him so deservedly receive this award. Family first. Now, all of you aspiring entrepreneurs, this is a man entering the hall, should give you a star to follow. We all have the ups and downs of our businesses, and he certainly has, and survived it beautifully. The key thing is to keep your eyes wide open and look for the next opportunity. A fellow standing waist deep in water in a flood in his house on the first floor, and a boat comes up and says, we've come to rescue you. He says, I don't want to be rescued. I trust in God. Boat goes away. He's on the second floor an hour later, and another boat comes by. Says, I don't want to be rescued. I trust in God. An hour later, he's on the crown of the house. A helicopter comes over, drops a basket. We've come to rescue. He says, I don't want to be rescued. I trust in God. Water rises. He's washed away. He's drowned. He gets to heaven, goes to see St. Peter, and he says, I want to see God right away. St. Peter said, she's busy. Then gets an appointment. He goes in and said, God, I trusted in you. And God says, I sent 2 boats and a helicopter. What more can I do? The same thing with Jeff Arnold. He sees those opportunities. He continually builds them. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow's a mystery. Today's a gift, and that's why we call it the present. What a present Jeff Arnold is to this community. He's given us 7 companies in 15 years. Job creation, leadership, applying technology to life. Please watch now as a video of Jeff is shown before we present his award. Thank you very much.